What's up, everybody? Hey, Tom Laird here, host of the Advice from a Call Center Geek podcast and founder of Expedia. For exceptional contact center outsourcing, trust Expedia. We're fully AI-driven, as all of you know, and can handle voice, email, chat, and all of your digital channels. Our 600-seat USA contact center is expert in healthcare, financial services, insurance, tech support, retail, and more. Experts on the NICE CX1 platform, we ensure seamless customer experiences. DM me or visit expediausa.com for more.
This is Advice from a Call Center Geek, a weekly podcast with a focus on all things call center. We'll cover it all from call center operations, hiring, culture, technology, and education. We're here to give you actionable items to improve the quality of yours and your customers' experience. This is an evolving industry with creative minds and ambitious people like this guy. Not only is his passion call center operations, but he's our host. He's the CEO of Expedia Interaction Marketing Group and the Call Center Geek himself, Tom Laird.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Advice from a Call Center Geek, the call center podcast where we give you actionable items that you can take back to your call center to not only improve the agent performance and quality, but also to hopefully improve the customer experience. My name is Tom Laird. I'm the CEO of Expedia Interaction Marketing Group. Expedia is a 500-seat BPO call center outsourcer located here in northwestern Pennsylvania. And welcome. We're here at episode 11. This is pretty cool. A couple of just, I guess, kind of cool announcements. We hit our 1,000th podcast episode download over this past week, which kind of has blown my mind. And this thing is, I think, doing a little bit more than I thought, which is awesome. The next thing I'd like to ask is if you have found any type of value out of this, please post a review. I don't want to review bag, but I'm kind of review begging. Just maybe on iTunes or on Spotify, wherever you guys are listening to this from. It would really help, get the message out to more people. And, I'd love to hear, some of the things that you think about the podcast, positive, negative, whatever you think. I'm all open to some type of review. Also, if you get a second, please head over to the Advice from a Call Center Geek Facebook page. I'd love to get some conversation going. That thing's new, and not many people have been interacting with that. So I'd love to hear, again, what you guys agree with me, disagree with me. I'd love to have a laid-back conversation on some of the topics that we're discussing. And then, we do have Twitter as well that you can follow us on, that we're posting a lot of stuff, from call center operations things to background on the podcast, and just some, I think, some fun things. So what we wanted to use today's episode for is to talk about some things that I've been actually receiving a little bit of feedback on in some emails from people who have been looking to outsource or are setting up RFPs, and they have asked to have a podcast dedicated on some things to look for when you're outsourcing. Again, I'm treading lightly here as I own an outsourcing call center. So again, I'm not trying to sell anything here, and that would defeat the whole purpose and the whole mission of the podcast. So I'm just going to talk to you about some things that some call center outsourcers do maybe a little differently than internal centers, and some of the things that you need to be aware of when you're setting up an RFP, when you're going to on-site visits, when you're talking to different call centers, whether it be onshore, nearshore, offshore, and what are some of the things that you should really be focusing on. So these are kind of 10 points to consider if you're ever debating or thinking about outsourcing your call center. Obviously, I do have a lot of experience with this, owning and operating a call center outsourcer. So again, I don't want this to come off as a sales pitch. This is just some information that if I was setting up an RFP, if I was looking at call centers, which we do as well, and help clients do that. These are some of the main points that we look at and focus on. So these are kind of the 10 points to consider when outsourcing your call center. And again, these are in no particular order. Probably should have put them in an order, but these are just some 10 topics to think about. So number one is proper size. A lot of the call centers, and I have a little bit of a ratio that I think, I don't think that your call center program, should be less than 3 to 4 to 5% of the call center floor that it's going to be at. So, you don't want a 20-seat program in a call center that's a 1,500-seat operation, right? It just isn't going to get the value. It's not going to get the quality aspect. It's not going to get the attention that it really deserves. So, You have to be careful the type of companies that you're going to. Again, we're a boutique. There's a ton of really good, 500, 1,000, 1,500 seat, maybe have 3 sites with 400 seats each that handle those 20 to 30 to 50 to 70 seat type programs. Now, if you're obviously a large organization and you have 2,000 seats to outsource, and then you're not going to look at the smaller guys. You're going to go talk to some of the big multinational players that can do some really cool diversification things where you can put certain things offshore, certain things nearshore, maybe more higher value or VIP type customers here in the States. You have a little bit more options. So I'm not going to tell you that a large call center is bad, because I don't think they are. I'm not going to tell you that a small call center is always better, because it's not. But you need to find the niche and the right seats for your program that will make the quality aspect and make it worth the organization's time to really do your program the right way. All right, number 2 is track record of management, which a lot of people really don't think about. But you need to really see how long they've been in the game. There's a lot of shady things that can happen in the call center space, especially when you get outside the onshore model, and you're looking nearshore or offshore. You got to really do a lot of due diligence. And I would tell you, if it's your first time outsourcing and you're looking to go nearshore or offshore, that you need some help. I would talk to a call center broker for sure, who has a track record of working with really high end offshore nearshore partners. I can help you with that. We can help you with that as well. But that's something to think about. On the nearshore, or I'm sorry, on the onshore model, there's a little bit less risk. There's still risk, but understanding, making sure that not only is the company reputable, but 2, that the management has an understanding of your business model, has an understanding of what type of program that you guys are trying to run, and have had some experience in that in the past. There are call centers that do everything, from healthcare to sales to direct response to insurance to, just sales only. Whatever you need, as niche-y as it is, somebody's out there for you. So just look and make sure that you have a good fit there. Number 3 is super important, and that's the client support method. One of the biggest failures that we see when a company outsources their program or their customers to a customer support center or BPO is that the client support method's terrible. Maybe it's just a 9-to-5 model. Maybe they have to put a trouble ticket in, right, to each different department. There's disjointed service where, if I have an issue with my production, I got to call production. If I have an IT issue, you got to call the IT people. This is where a boutique, I think, is kind of cool. And, a smaller type call centers, can really differentiate. So, here at Expedia, for example, you get 2 client services managers that are pretty much dedicated to your program, and you have 24/7 access, and that includes to me. So I'm always checking my phone. I am always on email. The same thing with our client support people. We always have somebody on call for weird after hours. But your phone call will be answered every single time. The first time it rings, directly, even bypassing our receptionist, go right to your client services manager. Any emails will be answered in under 10 minutes. Those types of things, a lot of the smaller call centers can really do a real bang-up job on. But make sure that you understand the methods of support for the call center that you're dealing with. Number 4 is make sure, and this kind of gets into the culture aspects, and there's a couple of different culture aspects, but number 4 is associate match. So remember, this call center that you choose, they need to be an extension of your brand. You have to make sure that this call center that you choose, we match demographics, we match personalities, we match different types of things that are going to go well with your customers, right? So if you're a startup and you're trying to you have a new cool app that's, targeting, people 18 to 24, well, then, you're going to probably want to have some type of support method and agents that are in that same world. Not all the time, but I think as an overall kind of just as a rough rule, you need to be very careful of what type of associates they're going to put on your program. Are they a match for your brand? Are they a match for your culture? Number 5 is vitally important, especially in the time that we live in now, and that's proper technology. So make sure, and a lot of this is where a lot of people get into trouble too, because a lot of people that do outsource, if they have a smaller company, they're not sure really what proper technology means. And again, you can get some help out there. There's a lot of call center brokers. There's a lot of people that will kind of guide you that can help you with that. But understand, the baseline of what you need, right, from a technology standpoint. So, will you need call recording? Are you going to need virtual queues or virtual callbacks? How can you do monitoring? Can you do live monitoring, through just having a portal that you can double click on an agent, put your cell phone number in and start listening to calls? Or do you have to call in and set up a monitoring session with the client? Speech analytics, do they have capability for the future? Do they get into chatbots? Are they into the AI scene? Are they a multi-channel facility? How are they going to connect to your systems? Making sure that this company can understand all that, is coming to you and basically telling you how it should be done. And I think that's the main thing here is if you're pulling information from them and they're kind of just real slow playing it, maybe their technology offering isn't really up to snuff. Most call centers are pretty badass. Most of us out there understand that, we are a bridge between a software company and a call center. And we have to be able to do things that your internal call centers can't. Or what's the point of outsourcing, right? It's not all about cost. A lot of this is about the customer experience. And we have found that, to offer that customer experience, the technology piece is a huge, huge part of it. Not only from, servicing the customer, but getting data and analytics back to make really, really high-end decisions that will affect the program and the company for the future. So, the technology piece, make sure that does not get pushed by. Talk to a lot of different call centers, push them on their technology. Try to get the coolest stuff that you can, or at least discuss it so that they can talk to you about it so you get a really good feel for where they are. Number 6 is understanding your cost structure and understanding where you want to place this. So I get a lot of questions on, Tom, we want to outsource. We're not sure if we should go onshore, offshore. Should we do a hybrid? Should we go nearshore? What should we do? And that's a difficult decision. I am pretty biased when it comes to the U.S. centers. I think in today's customer, and especially today's U.S. customer, there is a benefit and there's a huge plus if you have USA customer support. I think that shows that you're going to pay a little bit more for it, but it shows the value that you're giving and that you think your customers are worth it. So, having said that, there's a lot of programs that do really well offshore, right? There's a lot of tier 1, those types of programs that maybe are cost prohibitive in the States that you can get away with. I will say get away with though offshore. And a lot of this, though, does come to dollars and cents, and a company's making a culture decision based on a lot of different factors. But, it's not just price, but taking into account what the effect of having their program offshore and nearshore will be. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but, we've found that, for a lot of different companies, it does matter. So, the other thing that's kind of happening now in the space is people are going to this hybrid model, to where their VIP or high-end customers are in the States, and some of the lower tier 1 type support that can get handled easily is offshore. So there's a lot of different types of models that do work. We're also seeing a lot of onshoring because of technology. So people are using chatbots and they're using self-service to take care of their tier 1, and then tier 2, tier 3 is done in the States. Again, that's a culture issue. It's a price issue. How worthwhile is your support to be done, here in the States or nearshore or offshore? Number 7, and if you have listened to anything about me, you understand, and I probably even use the word culture 14 times in this podcast episode. But number 7 is company culture. You have to have a culture fit when it comes to the outsourcing call center that you're using. There's a lot of very laid-back call centers. There's a lot of very strict financial type call centers in the outsourcing space. It all depends on really what you're looking for and making sure that there's a match. So this is where a site visit becomes really, really important. Understanding things like is the call center paperless? Is there an energy and a really cool vibe that you feel when you get out on the floor? Do you care about that? Do the associates look like they want to be there? Again, demographics, those types of things. What type of agents do they have? Who are they hiring? Are they hiring high school students? Are they hiring people with a college degree? What does the center look like? Does it look clean? Does it look like they've put a lot of time into to build up their employee engagement platforms. Are they having fun on the floor? Again, some of that might not be important. I think it is, especially when you're outsourcing your customers to another organization. Make sure that there's a culture fit that matches what you're looking for in the organization that you have, and also just the people and the management aspect too. When you talk to them, do you get along? Is there a connection there? That's really important to the viability of the program. Number 8 is education. Dig deep into how they do initial training and initial education for a new rep that's off the street. If they're just hiring them and throwing them in training for 2 days and throwing them out on the floor, that could be an issue, I guess, depending on what program you have or what your training aspect or what your rep structure looks like. Again, I don't want to just talk about Expedia, but a lot of the really high-end BPOs I know do a full week of education and training before there's any type of program training. So these are legal aspects. These are culture issues. These are HR functions, making sure they understand all your corporate policies, what's to be expected. That's a huge piece of it. So make sure you dig into the initial train. And then just as important, how do they want to do training and education on your program? If they ever push back that they don't want the client on site, I would run away. We really love our clients to be especially involved in that initial train to really get this done right, the proper way. So make sure that you're invited to be as much of a piece of that initial training as possible. Also, find out about ongoing training. We do here at Expedia, we give all of our associates 1 hour of unbilled training every single week on every single program, and we talk a lot of things about soft skills and engagement and how to make sure that you're delighting the customers and you're saying the right things. Make sure that there's a culture piece of this. Make sure that the call center that you're discussing and you're talking to isn't just saying, hey, we train on clicking here and clicking there, and then they'll get through this as quick as we possibly can. Make sure that they take the time and they go over soft skills and how to really talk to the customer, not just where to click and what to click. So that's a huge piece of it. The other thing is, how do they do all of their QA? So with this training piece, how many associates are going to be scored per week? How do they do it? Do they use speech analytics? Are they just trying to kind of listen to calls? And that's fine, but making sure that that's in line with what your quality aspects are, that you have a benchmark for them, that you give that to them to hit, is really important from setting an expectation for the call center. Number 9 is scalability and flexibility. Very few programs just have 30 or 40 or 50 agents all day long, all year long, and they just truck along with that. There's a lot of scaling up, scaling down, peak times, Christmas, sometimes it's summertime. Make sure that the call center is large enough that they can scale, and also that they're not going to get hurt if you have to pull 10 reps off. Also, ask what happens to those associates. A lot of times you don't want to lay them off. You paid for a lot of training. They're really highly educated. Make sure that you can they can find another place for them, or how that whole process of scaling and flexibility will work out for them. Number 10 is probably number 1 or number 2 on the most importance, and that's security. Is your call center that you're going to use PCI compliant? Because that should be the minimum, right? That's no longer like a high standard. That should be the minimum. I wouldn't even really talk to call centers that are not PCI compliant. Then you get into HIPAA and SOC 2 compliance. Look at some things that they do from a policy standpoint that a lot of the BPOs do. So, we're totally paperless. So there's no pens, there's no pencils, there's nothing that's in the call center booth that's allowed. If anything needs to be, set up in the booth and it's laminated, those types of things. The other thing that we're maybe a little bit crazy on is cell phones, and we have a strict no cell phone policy. We do most of our stuff, when it comes to, reps doing things wrong. We try to, really celebrate when they do things right and kind of correct off the floor very quietly, while cell phones are the only exception to that rule. So we kind of, I don't want to say lose our minds, but if your cell phone is seen or heard on the call center floor, it's an automatic suspension. We don't mess around with it. There's too much that can happen with cell phones. So we've just totally tried to take them out of the equation. We have, specific texting and cell phone areas that are off the floor that they can use. But once they're on the floor, if that goes off in their pocket and it gets heard by management, that's a suspension. So again, make sure that the security aspect that you're looking at and you're dealing with, matches the security element that your organization has and the expectation that you're looking for. It's hard, right? Outsourcing can be difficult. It can be a very stressful situation. In the age of social media, your customers now have a voice to shout out if they feel that your company is not providing good service. Choosing to outsource to the right organization for your company, it can be a blessing. Choosing the wrong partner can be an absolute headache. That can be said too, though, for your internal center. If you're not providing a level of service that can be second to none, that can be held up to the expectations of your customers, then look at some of these awesome BPOs. There's a lot of really, really cool, not super expensive call centers that are out there, even on the nearshore or onshore model, that can really help your customer experience, can turn your profits or your call center into a profit center, and really improve the customer experience. So again, that's my kind of take on on 10 things that you need to look at, right? So just to recap, looking at the proper size, the track record of management, how are they going to support you from a client services standpoint, making sure that you have a good associate match from a demographic standpoint. Their technology should be second to none and should be advance what you're doing in your internal call center. Cost is a big piece of this from the onshore, offshore, and hybrid model to take a peek at. Understanding the call center's culture, making sure that it's a good fit. How do they educate? How do they do QA? Scoping all that out. Is the call center going to be flexible with you when you go through your peaks, your ups and downs? And then, do they have a PCI compliant? Are they SOC 2 compliant? Are they HIPAA compliant? What type of security measures are they taking to protect you, to protect your data, and to protect your customers? Whew, okay, so that's my 10 tips. If you have any questions on any of this, please shoot me an email, tlaird@expevia.net, or go on Twitter. You can DM me. I'm also on our Advice from a Call Center Geek Facebook page. Love to again hear from some of you. So that's episode 11. I hope that that's helpful. Please again, if you get a chance and if you find some value, post a review. I'm review bagging. And then again, as I always say, we gotta, just as a cheap plug, there's a book. It's called Advice from a Call Center Geek book. It's on Amazon. Just kind of Google Advice from a Call Center Geek, and about 98 pages. It's super quick to read, but it really discusses a lot of things that we talk about in the Geek in kind of a book format. You can get the ebook too. It's like $2 or $3. So again, thank you guys very much, and I'll talk to you next week.
This has been Advice from a Call Center Geek. Thanks for listening. Subscribe to the show so you're the first to hear next week's episode. Jam-packed with actionable takeaways you can implement ASAP. Chime in with your thoughts on the episode on Twitter @from_geek and on Instagram @call_center_geek. Also, take a look at our contact center operations book by the same name, Advice from a Call Center Geek, on Amazon. This podcast is sponsored by ExpeviaUSA.com.